Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell.
All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic, and with us tonight, Beth Curry. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be
here. Well, I don't know if you should be honored, but we're glad that you're happy to be here.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you, I first became aware of you and Totsy when you opened for the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
That was our first venture out of the birth canal. That was our, I had sang backup for Brian Setzer for years, a couple years, and Brian is like the best. I mean, you always want to hear, I know you have fans of Brian on the show, and like you always want to hear that your idol is like truly an awesome person, and he is. I love I was remembering on tour, like on the tour bus, he would, after playing a show and like going from city to city, he would like take out his guitar and be like, "Ooh, what about that? What about that?" Like he's somebody who just loves it. So to be around that sort of artistry and passion, it was truly inspiring. So when Brett Boyette, my co-writer and co-creator of Totsy, we wrote all these songs, and then originally for Totsy, it was, we're gonna write songs for film and TV, and that's what we're gonna do. And then we were like, we have all these songs, let's do something with them. Excuse me. And so we put together the image of Totsy, and then sort of Totsy was born, and we reached out to Brian on just like a whim, like, hey, we have this thing. I don't know if, you want to do it. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we were kind of like, how do we make that happen? We did a Kickstarter. We, got some sponsorship. We rented a crappy ass petri dish of an RV. We couldn't afford staying in hotels. So I think the guys did stay in hotels and the girls stayed on the RV. But we did everything we could to get on the road. And thank God we did, because it was the most magical moment, because you start something and you go, I don't know if people are going to dig this. I don't even know if people are going to like this. And then the first show, I think, was in Minneapolis, and we were like, oh, wow, okay, people kind of get it. And it was so fun. That tour was just so rewarding and fulfilling and overwhelming, because you're doing everything. I mean, I probably walked like a marathon in those red hooker boots. But it was honestly it was just such a fantastic tour and time.
Yeah, I could tell that you guys were having fun.
We were having a ball. Yeah, and we would just wait to get to the venues. We were like, oh, at the venue, we'll be able to shower. We did what we could. That's what you do.
The perks of being on the road.
Snacks and showers.
I'll tell you, before we get too far down the road with Totsy, as we always say on this show, every performer's journey starts somewhere. Obviously, Totsy wasn't the start. So for you, how did you get into the performing arts?
Well, I was an angsty redhead, so my mom was looking for a way to get me to burn off some of that energy. So she put me, I danced from early age, and then early age. And then I went into musical theater when I was around 9. And that's where I was like, okay, this is my jam. And then I went to college for theater at SMU in Dallas, Texas. And then after that, I was going to go to New York to pursue my Broadway dreams, but I went to LA instead because my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer when I was 22. So I stayed in LA and I was dabbling in writing music. I was doing some theater. I got a European tour of Grease Das Musical, where I performed in Germany, being Rizzo, for a year and toured all around Europe, which was incredible. And then came back and I stayed here in LA until I was about, a few years. And then I went to New York and pursued and got a Broadway show, which was Good Vibrations, which was a Beach Boy musical. It lasted all of 3 weeks for me. My Broadway debut was April 1st, which should have been a sign. Haha. And then I stayed in New York and I did Legally Blonde, the musical, and then I did the tour of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and the tour of Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks show. I played the Madeline Kahn character with the squiggle in the hair, and that sent me back to LA. And then I came back to LA, and now I've been here ever since.
Tell me this: you did Young Frankenstein for like 5 years, was it?
No, I just did it for a year.
For a year, okay, all right. What was that like?
Oh my God. Honestly, the audition was the thing that I was like, what? Why is Mel Brooks in the room? Because he was in the room and we just got off because I'm just like, God gave me a dirty brain. God gave him a dirty brain. We were like banter, wit fest. It was so fun. And that tour was incredible. That tour was and the role I had was interesting because in the first act, I came on in the first 10 minutes. I sang a song about my tits. And then I was off stage for an hour and 10 minutes, I think. In that time, the first week, I was like falling asleep. Like, how do you stay awake? I did like P90X and then I started writing. Actually, that's where my writing started. I started writing. I wrote a TV pilot, and then now I have a love for writing and also pursue that as well. So, but that was the adventure of Young Frankenstein. It was so much fun.
What is the most memorable thing you recall from that time in Young Frankenstein?
Oh my gosh.
If you can't narrow it down, a couple of them.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just the touring life is so fun to be in every city. And okay, one of the memorable ones was a massive snowstorm in Washington, D.C., and we were performing at the Kennedy Center and sledging to the show in like snow, because we didn't have cars or anything, and getting there, and there were 30 people in the audience. And I think that Roger Bart, who was the star of the show, would just like stop and be like, "So, how are you guys doing? We want some chicken soup? What's going on?" Like, that was really fun. But I mean, the show, it's so iconic, and it was just so fun to play that role because she's just so crazy. And she has sex with a monster. Who can say that? I mean,
well, did you, knowing how iconic Madeline Kahn's performance was in that role in the movie, did you have any trepidation taking on that role?
Sure. And I was, for when you do a Broadway show, the tour, they like to model you after the Broadway show. So like, if you have your own choices, sometimes they go, well, we want to create it in the brand that we've established. So I was definitely guided in a certain direction. So, yeah, of course, nervous. I mean, she's amazing. She's hilarious.
Absolutely.
I did my
Well, you mentioned about getting into that, that downtime led you to starting your screenwriting. And that has taken you on to a whole other avenue here. And for anybody that is interested, on your website, you've got links to, or a page talking about it. And you have now written, between film and TV, over 20 scripts.
You counted. I'm honored.
Actually, it's 21, but I thought in case you'd written something else since, I had some leeway there.
Yeah. So it is like, I mean, I love all creativity, but it is my oxygen a little bit, writing good. So I started writing, like I said, backstage, and it continued on since I've been back in LA. And in 2020, I won the Oscar-sponsored Nickel Fellowship, which was a huge deal. Out of 7,800 scripts, they chose 5 of us. So that really bumped things up, and now I have 3 films in development. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes, and I just wrote a book too, which will be out soon. I know, it's too much. I'm like, creativity.
You have more energy.
I know. I have a lot of creativity and no kids. So
you're channeling it into this.
Yeah.
Well, actually, from what I read, that first feature-length script that you did was a semi-finalist for the Nichols Fellowship.
Yeah, in 2012. Yeah, 2012. Yeah, and
that had to be quite a surprise for you. Here it's your first one, and yet you reached that level with it.
Yeah, I had no idea what the Nickel Fellowship was at that time, so I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But yeah, of course, like now having been a Nickel Fellow, and it's I mean, that's like it's great. I'm so like just blown away by it.
Yeah. Well, looking at the list of screenplays that you've done, it is very diverse.
Very diverse.
Yeah. Where do you get your inspiration for the script ideas?
You know, I'm actually very happy about my brain that it gives me one at a time. It's like not a crazy Lucille Ball conveyor belt of ideas. It's just like, okay, here's your idea, go write it. So I'm grateful for that. They come in various ways. Like sometimes it's a dream. Sometimes, like for instance, my Facebook got hacked, and I was just thinking about someone. It's just like life happens, and then you kind of expand on it. And so, I think that's sort of how. I mean, I don't know how they really come to me. They're very different. Yeah. And I wrote one for Totsy.
You did.
I did, which it's funny because the look and brand of our band is as it is, but it's a kid-friendly animated film with Totsy music. So
interesting.
Yeah.
And tell me this, how are you someone who will
I am someone.
Do you hear a conversation or partake in a conversation and then realize, or just something happens to you, and you kind of put that memory of that event away and then call it back later to use it as a scene?
You know what? It's funny. There's someone, Elizabeth Gilbert. I think she wrote Big Magic. Is that what it's called? And she always says that you have ideas in your brain and they're there for a while and they pester. And then sometimes they go away and someone else. But the idea is there. And normally if an idea is like knocking on my door, it's like, hello, hi, write me. Then I will be like, okay, I don't know what this is. And you just start. I think like anyone who is in really any creative field, it's just about starting and not editing yourself. Because I remember backstage a young Frankenstein on the floor of the dressing room with my little notebook. And I was like writing and I'm like, this is crap. I looked down at like 2 pages. I'm like, what am I doing? But there was a voice inside of me that was like, no one has to see this. Just keep going. Why not? What do you have to lose? So I just kept going. And that is sort of my mantra and things, is like, you won't have it figured out the first time. So just, and that's what I do. I just kind of write, let it flow, and then I figure it out later. But I think that point in any field of just letting ourselves go and get whatever it is out and not edit it is so important and so freeing. And the start, truly just the start.
Tell me this, Beth. When younger, were you a big movie fan, big TV watcher?
I was a big dreamer, Pisces. So I was really, I lived in my head. Everyone's childhood is different. I actually explore this in my book, but I grew up a little bit of a chaotic house. And so my mind and my imagination was my respite. It was my place to have control over my world and my environment. So that has always been, my imagination has always been like my best friend. So I did grow up watching things, but mostly I just grew up in my brain, and still to this day, it's better now, but I will just live in there rather than in reality sometimes.
Hey, if it works.
I mean, it sounds a little cuckoo, but I mean, I've always been a very creative person.
How about as far as music goes? Were you a big music collector or anything?
I mean, I was into musical theater growing up, and now I can't really listen to it. I mean, I love it, but I just don't listen to it as an adult. But as a kid, we had like this basement area that my parents put a mirror on. So it was like our dance studio. And I would go down there and belt out tunes and like make up dances. And so I was always in that world and constantly doing show after show after show, like community theater, professional theater. Like it was just constant shows as a kid. I probably did 20 shows as a kid.
That's quite a few, especially for a kid.
I mean, I don't think my mom liked having me at home. I think she was like, yeah, this is good.
Go do this.
Yeah.
Now, how about like songs in the radio? Was there any music you listened to then that you became an influence, we'll say, on Totsy or how you perform now?
I mean, I was always a fan of the weird. Like, sorry, I grew up really loving I love like the throwbacks. I didn't really discover the classics until I was like in my 20s. I lived in a bubble. But then I was obsessed with Billy and Ella. And then I like always loved Bjork. And recently my husband and I went to see her in concert, just like, I don't know, within the last 6 months. And she's, wearing the weird outfit, and I don't know how old she is, but I'm like, man, if she can do it into her 60s, 70s, I'm like, let's do it. Let's dress up and be weird.
Well, she's found a niche for herself. That's for sure.
She has. But I think I was always very interested. And when I was in New York doing Broadway shows, I had a mic because I was trying to get into voiceover then. Now I do voiceover it's another avenue I do. But then I was just sort of exploring it. And I would come home at night after a show because you have so much energy. And I would sing into the mic and do parts, kind of like the stuff I do in Totsy, like I would create songs because I didn't have a keyboard or anything like that. I would create songs with just like parts, like some sort of like Imogen Heap kind of. And that was relaxing for me. So when I came back from New York and I worked with Brett again, because we actually connected before I went to New York. We wrote Dope on a Rope just for fun. And then he's like, this song's really fun. This song, I think there's something there. So when I came back from New York, we picked up where we left off, but I had like explored all these different parts and making sort of those musical flurried parts sort of a character in our music. Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
All right, Michael. Good.
Well, before we get deviate too far away from the film and TV and screenwriting and everything. TV. On the acting side, you have done a lot of different shows that you've had roles on. What's that like when you walk onto a show and you're in a one episode deal and the machine's running and then you walk into something where everybody else is already into the groove and you've got to figure out your way?
Yeah, you just try not to F up. It can be nerve-wracking. And there have been times in my life when I'm like, I feel very relaxed, it's fun. And then there are other times in my life where I'm like, what are the words coming out of my mouth? Is this the right words? Oh my God, am I messing up? You're in your head. I've done a lot of, I'm like, the person is like, oh wait, wasn't that girl on, or just like, I'm just like the one line sometimes it goes in and out. But I'm grateful for all of that. I love acting and just kind of forgetting yourself in roles. And I wish I did more of it. It's fun.
Do you have a preference, drama over comedy or comedy over drama?
Drama is kind of fun because you get to let out your angst. Comedy's great because it's just, you get to be just dumb. And you just, comedy's great because it's so musical in a way. And it's, it's a place where you can just let yourself, some shows, like you can let yourself just kind of go a little bit. Well, actually, no. At the end of scenes, sometimes there's like tags or like things that aren't planned, which is always what I live for. I love those like moments of spontaneity.
Well, with comedy and music, timing is the key to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be a lot of similarities for you from performing, especially with Totsy, where everything is so big and grandiose with it performance-wise, and then similar to acting.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Brett Boyette does an incredible job with these tracks. We'll start with just a simple idea and he'll give the song so much life, and just it's so unexpected in a way. Of his productions are just incredible. But the timing of all of it, I think it's finding those moments that are unexpected. When you watch a show and you see the character do something, you're like, what did they just do? And you rewind it, you're like, that's funny, because it's just, I think humor and interesting music is the key, is those unexpected moments where what you think is going to happen doesn't happen, and then you're like, oh, that's cool. Like Billie Eilish does a lot in her music, where she'll just kind of veer off track and you're like, what? In Bad Guy, I remember when I heard that for the first time, that sort of breakdown, I was like, that's great. Yeah, it's unexpected.
Yeah. Well, tell me this, when you and Brett are writing songs, are you music first and then fit the lyrics to the music? Do you come up with lyrical ideas and then fit the music to the lyrics, or is it a little bit of both?
I would say first he would be like, oh, I found this lick for something, and then he'll play it, and then we'll kind of come up with something. Sometimes, like when we were doing stuff more for TV and film, we would come up with the idea that they needed. So we were like, oh, they need a song about a edgy, dark song about zombies. Okay. Oh, we need an upbeat song about, commercial song that could be about, for cosmetics. We did Pretty, it was, at that point, we were just prescriptive, doing whatever was requested. But now it's, we have, so Automatic was our up-tempo song that was just released. And then down the pike, this next song we have, which we all love, is called Freak. And that is very dark and very like, kind of like Little White Secrets-esque, but not really. So that song is coming out within the next like few months, I think. So that one's going to be really cool. So now I feel like we have free reign to do whatever we think. Yeah.
Well, Red Balloon, the first album, which is what you were singing tracks from when I saw you performing, opening for Brian. With that, you said Dope and Rope was the first song you guys wrote?
Yeah.
What's the origin of that one?
Gosh, he had a again like a guitar lick, and I think I went over and then we just kind of hung out, and usually it's like just like blah blah blah, 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 you know, like it's me saying not words, and then I think like those words came out and I was like, I don't even know what that means. And then we just
He's
sort of,
what?
and he's like,
Go ahead.
huh, that's interesting. Dope on a rope, like that's interesting. And then we just sort of then attach the chorus, and then usually we find the chorus first and then build out the verses lyric wise and then go from there. But it usually starts with his a guitar lick and then me doing a lot of jumbo babble, and then finally
What was that? He's my 5-cent soap. He's my dope on a rope. Was that like a stream of conscious line?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't even like really make sense. So it doesn't make sense, but
But it works.
yeah, it's just let yourself go.
Yeah. Now, how about Ball and Chain for that album?
So that was a pitch for Jerry Seinfeld had a wedding show, I think. And so they were accepting songs about like wedding and looking for like kind of a theme song. So that's what we wrote that for. We didn't get it, but we were actually very close, I think.
Nice. How about Little White Secrets?
Little White Secrets was for a show. I forget what show, but some darker show. And you know, so that was that inspiration. I mean it's so funny because like the first album, because we weren't ever thinking of it being a band, we were just like writing songs for film and TV. And so when we put all these songs together, it's like, oh, you know, they have a similar feel, but they are kind of different. And that's sort of because the reasoning from
Yeah, well, that makes sense because I say when you listen to it, it's like a musical journey because you're going into all these different spaces, with it, both lyrically, sonically, what have you.
That's what's so fun. That's why like I actually wrote the film for it, because they're all so cinematic and dramatic that it really works like in moments like there's a song we have called Uh-Oh, it's gonna come out soon, and it's very very fun and bouncy, and the Little White Secrets is so dark and sort of Tim Burton-y. And so it was so fun to write the movie because you have all these different colors and feels. So yeah.
Now with the new album, is that kind of like an extension of Red Balloon, or is it taking you into new areas?
We're not doing a full, I guess it's the single culture now, all the single songs. So I don't think we're gonna do an album per se, but we're gonna keep these singles coming out because we have about like 10 in line. It's always hard to know, like, do you do another album? Do you just do singles? It's weird. I think the industry's changed so much that it's very odd. I mean, I would love to do another proper album, to be like, this is our second album, and we might after, but I don't know. But for now, we're just a singles culture, I guess.
Well, now everything is so geared to the download.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a totally different world, totally different mindset when it comes to purchasing music.
Yeah, it really is.
Now, did you have albums growing up that you're partial to?
Oh my God. I mean, this is the weird collection that we had. So what like top 5 off the top of my head, which are very, very odd collection that I can remember. It's just things coming to my head. Were Xanadu, Lil Abner, the Broadway. I mean, yeah, I don't even know Lil Abner. Nobody really does it. Michael Jackson, Thriller. Oh my gosh. What else was there? Albums. My mom loved Crystal Gale.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, wide range of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, Xanadu and Little Abner. I'm going to say you're probably the only person in the world to have those 2 albums on their list.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so odd.
Well, tell me this, Beth. You mentioned before about that you sang with Brian before Totsy. How did you come to work with him?
But so circuitous. This business is always so strange. It's all, I mean, they say like, oh, it's who you know, but it is. So at the time, I was working in a cover band called NRG, which I did for probably 18 years. I worked in this band. And they, my friend in the band, Joey Shetler, who was the original Vixen, was pregnant and asked me to cover for her for her pregnancy. So that's how, and then I met Julie, Brian's wife, when we got along, and then it kind of happened.
Hey,
yeah,
it's not to ask why.
Yeah.
Good deal. And I'm going to guess that's what, opened the door for you to ask him about touring.
Yeah, I mean, he's so lovely and always, and when I left singing for him, it was because I got a Broadway show and they were very excited and happy for me. And so, that's, they're always so supportive and just lovely. And like when I first finished my book, I sent it to Julie and she read it a bit and was like, oh, it's so great. So, I mean, we're still in touch and we still talk, and we just sang them happy birthday, my husband and I. Yeah. So they're still very much in our hearts.
Yeah, it's very nice. Well, tell me this, Beth, is there anything that we didn't get into that you'd want to make sure we do before we wrap this one up?
No, just make sure, we, on TikTok, Totsy Music, Instagram, Totsy Music. We're not on Spotify, which we realized. So we're making sure that we get to that. We don't have any live concerts planned at this time because I'm in LA and Brett is in Nashville. So, but we will eventually. We always get asked about, when are you guys playing out again? Or you should come play at this place. We're like, that'd be awesome, but we have to get there somehow. So, so we don't have any tour plans, but we have new music coming out. We have Freak coming out in a few months. And then we also have some more music coming out at the end of the year. So lots in store. Very exciting.
How about on the acting front for you?
On the acting front, there's nothing coming up. On the screenwriting front, I'm working on rewrites of the film that I won the Nickel Fellowship for, called Lemon, and we're working with a company called Mandalay. So we hope to, we have a director attached, Debbie Berman. She edited Black Panther. And so we're in the rewrite process of that, and we hope to get that into production by the end of the year. So it's very exciting.
Nice. Yeah, I would say. All right. Well, tell you what, on that note, we'll bring this one to a close. Beth, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.